Did you know that TERFs are trying to steal the label of lesbian? It's a horrible atrocity being perpetrated by these TERFs, whoever they might be. Anyways, hello all. I'm gonna discuss today a piece that the Advocate ran. For anybody who doesn't know who the Advocate is a quote unquote LGBTQ plus publication. It used to be pretty much a gay and lesbian publication. They've been around quite a long time. I remember reading the Advocate way back in the day, 20 some years ago. Anyways, we're going to discuss the how much the homophobia is coming from inside the house these days. Think how I'm going to work it is I'm going to go ahead and screen share, bring up the article so you can see it. I probably won't leave it up the whole time. We're just going to kind of run through the points. If you want to read the whole thing yourself, go for it. I've already read it through as much as I could stomach. Um, so anyways, yeah, let's get started. All right, so here we are. Advocate, reclaiming lesbian, why the label isn't problematic and the TERFs can't have it. By the way, these uh, these ladies are not involved in this article. While the L may kick off the LGBTQ plus moniker, in recent years it has become inexplicably fraught. I didn't realize it had been, to be honest. I've been a lesbian for 20 some years. As our understanding and rejection of the constructs around, brace yourself, folks, queer word salad is coming. As our understanding and rejection of the constructs around gender continue to become richer and more complex, and the TERFs get louder and more histrionic. So, well, that's just sexism there. That's just old school sexism. That's good to see it come back. Some corners of our community have begun looking sideways at the L's in our midst. But is that fair? Certainly the G's aren't facing the same scrutiny. I wonder why. The G's. Are we not saying gay or lesbian anymore? Is it just like L's and G's and P's and Q's and I's and I mean what the well, the G's, being the gay men, are not facing quite as much hostility as the lesbians are because they really don't have um autogonophilic men wanting to come into their spaces and be validated by them like we do. So let's see. But the question remains, is being a lesbian innately problematic? For me, May Rude, a 37-year-old trans lesbian. All right, folks, we're going to correct that language to the reality-based language. For me, Mr. Rude, a 37-year-old straight heterosexual white man who has been working in lesbian media for a decade. Coming out as lesbian meant freedom, joy, and self-acceptance. But for many these days, it seems to mean policing, transphobia, and division. We're not going to stand for that. Oh, those are bad words. Policing's a bad word, transphobia is a bad word, and division's a bad word. We don't use these words. We don't even give terms for those words. Those are just bad words. I guess I should have started this by saying my definition of lesbian. Okay, if you agree with my definition, we might be on the same page here. The definition of lesbian for me and for the groups I run in means a female who is same-sex attracted exclusively to other females. Right? Lesbian. So Mr. Rude, here he is. Here he is, Mr. Rude. Here's the white colonizer. And and you know what's funny about this chick? She's bisexual. So a straight white man and a bisexual woman wrote this article telling lesbians how fraught our terms are, how fraught we are as lesbians. You know, ain't that some shit? Ain't that some shit? Okay. Okay, so I have a lot of strong opinions on the word identity and community that is lesbian. I'm not about to watch my favorite word and in the world get dragged through the mud. Of course, it's Mr. Rude's favorite word. Mr. Rude gets boners from thinking of himself as a woman. So, what is going to be more like woman than a woman who is only sexually attracted to other women? No men in sight. Oh my God, the validation of an AGP, which is a shorthand for autogonophilic or autogonophile or however you want to say it. Look it up if you don't know about AGPs. Very interesting dudes. So yeah, of course, this is like ultimate boner territory for this dude. Together with my coworker Tracy, a cis Gen X lesbian. Okay, so this is Tracy, and so look, I'll just run through this article, okay? They go back and forth. What does lesbian mean to you? They talk about what lesbian means to them. Um, let's see. Oh, here's them. Oh, look at the inclusion. Old pictures, pop reference, pop reference, pop reference. Uh-oh, and look here. Look, TERF queen. We got to put the TERF queen in here, even though she's not a lesbian, and I have no idea what she even. Oh, also they needed to m- mention Michigan Women's Festival, Music Festival. Got to make sure to throw that under the bus. They also mention After Ellen, the a publication that's decided to not pander to men. Oh, here we go. TERFs are ugly. Okay, so women who don't include men are ugly. Where have we heard that before? More celebrities and old photos and pop reference. Okay, so we'll go ahead and stop sharing that screen so you can see my beautiful face. I'll go ahead and hit some of the major points, and we'll go from there. This is the bisexual. It wasn't a straight line, so to speak, to identify as a lesbian. Though I had a girlfriend during my junior year of high school, we eschewed labels. She called it aesthetic appreciation, exhibiting some internalized lesbophobia. Talk about lesbophobia. I wanted to distance myself from the Birkenstock-clad, unshaven, man-hating lesbians that were the stereotype and who were roundly mocked in my high school. Lesbophobia. She wanted to distance herself from those stereotypes, but like honestly, okay, so what's so bad about this? Okay, you wanted to distance yourself from women who wear comfortable shoes, don't bother shaving because it's better for your skin, and who needs to do that? It's just time consuming. Men have hair. Why can't women have body hair? It's natural. It's normal. Um, and the man hating. Well, lesbians have always got the tag of man hating. And the reason we get it is extremely low bar that we don't let men fuck us. And that pretty much gets you man hating. You actually hate them because you won't let them fuck you. Which is funny because that's what Mr. Rude is saying too. Mr. Rude is saying you don't want to fuck me, so you hate me. It's interesting. I'm gonna say interesting a lot because sometimes there's just no words for how bonkers this has gotten and how just wow, this is quite the social experiment that's been going on. Okay, I love this little bit she writes. Because I dated boys before and after my first love, I identified as bisexual for a few years. I realized in my early 20s, after having fallen headlong for two other women, that although I might find a guy physically attractive, I had zero interest in an emotional connection beyond friendship. Physical attraction and friendship is what makes a relationship. It's what makes sexual attraction, is what makes like your ability to fall in love with somebody. I don't know what the fuck she's talking about here. She says physically attractive. I'm assuming she meaning just like, I mean, you wouldn't use attractive unless you were like looking at their body and going, that it sexually excites me. I like what I see here, right? That's how I'm taking it. She's confused as fuck. If you find him physically attractive and you can be friends with somebody, then you can have a relationship with them. Those are the main elements. Um, okay, so Mr. Rude, this is exactly how I feel. Of course it is, Mr. Rude. Well, I still might find men attractive. I doubt he does. Maybe he is bisexual, but like I honestly think he finds men attractive because he likes the idea of men being into him because that validates him as a woman. And I finally remember some of my sexual encounters with men, and I can conceive of a world where I do it again for fun. Just funsies, you know. I really have no desire to do anything more. And for me, that means being a lesbian. Do you know this is just like so many sentences and words about what it means to be a lesbian when you can seriously just cut all the fucking crap out and get right down to it? If you're a woman who is sexually attracted only to other women, then you're a lesbian. That's it. You don't have to wear certain clothes. You don't have to look a certain way. You don't have to like certain music. You don't have to go to certain festivals. You don't have to drive a certain car. None of that fucking matters. Oh, fuck, Tracy. It's funny. I can find men attractive. There she goes again. I can find men attractive. Tracy, I can't. I don't. I don't know what like you have a lot of internalized biphobia, and you need to address that, I think. Um, but I don't finally remember any physical interactions with men. I mean, a lot of women who are into men can say the same thing because, you know, oftentimes men are really selfish and don't want to please a woman and don't want to treat women with equality or value. And so, like, I get it. But, like, that a lesbian does not make. Here's Mr. Rude. I didn't always identify as a lesbian either. When I first came out as a trans woman, I came out as a lesbian at the same time. But in the following years, as I explored womanhood, God, how many women out there have explored womanhood? Have you explored womanhood today? I mean, that's like a key to being a woman, right? You have to explore womanhood. I also explored my sexuality and identified as bisexual for a time and had some experiences with men. However, those experiences only reaffirmed my identity as a lesbian, something I stand proudly in today. No, you experimented with men to validate your autogonophilia, your paraphilia, and then it didn't really do much for you other than, validate you. And you're still a heterosexual dude. So you decided to colonize lesbians. You decide to colonize women's bodies, colonize who we are and our culture and our community identity. And something that's really interesting too is if you want to understand and you want to know the truth, when a trans person, generally speaking, hashtag not all, don't come into the fucking comments and tell me not all, but the majority. Are you talking to a trans person or are you talking to somebody who believes in trans ideology? If you want to know if they're telling the truth, you just flip what they said. It is opposite day with them all the time. So when they talk about finding their true selves, reverse that. They're not finding their true selves. Their true selves is what they were. They're making up something else. It's not their true self. When they say, for example, life-saving surgeries, nothing life-saving about it. Just everything they say is the opposite. So the bisexual, lesbian is a sexual identity. Well, no, it's not a sexual identity. It's a sexuality. A political and historical identity and a sensibility. No, no. I mean, there is politics that go along with being a lesbian. We have our history. We have sensibilities. But that's not what being a lesbian is. It's not to say that I couldn't love someone whose identity is more expansive, but the word for me is couched in a lifelong love and reverence for women. You're fucking full of shit, Tracy. If it was a reference and a love for women, you wouldn't be writing an article with this fucking white dude. Coward. Mr. Rude. Let's see what Mr. Rude has to say about what does it mean to be a lesbian to Mr. Rude. For me, being a lesbian means I'm a woman who loves other women. You don't love women. Let's just stop that right. You don't love women because if you've actually loved women, you wouldn't be pretending to be one. You would understand that women are unique on their own category and you would value them as they are. And you as a man would be a fucking man and just exist as you are. and not go into those spaces and not colonize those spaces and not pressure and not be rapey and sexually exploit women. Okay? Mr. Rude, you're disgusting. I don't need to be much more complicated than that. Of course he doesn't. He doesn't need to be complicated in that. He's just claimed it. What a fucking guy move, right? I decided that I'm just gonna do this now, and I do this now. So you be quiet, you be quiet, you be quiet. I'm doing this. Like, so he just walks in there just swinging his dick, didn't he? Um, yeah, Tracy, does some more ass kissing. Um, you know. Okay, I love this part. Mr. Rude. For me, as a man who gets off on being seen as a woman, who grew up essentially a boy, wishing he could be a woman. I doubt he grew up the whole time as a boy. I think this probably kicked in later in life. I thought lesbians were the best thing in the world. I was 9 years old when the WNBA started and 10 when Ellen came out. I remember thinking that women with short hair and confidence around other women were the coolest thing I'd ever seen. What are you fucking talking about, short hair? So women without short hair aren't great. Like, I don't like, this is just such fucking misogynistic bullshit. He goes on to talk about how his mom liked Ellen, he liked Ellen. And then they go on a long tirade about pop culture, pop culture, singers, this and that, and all this crap about how, like pop culture is all this makes you a lesbian because you like this and you like that and you enjoy that music and you drive that car. And I'm just like, shut up, shut up. But then they get down here a little bit and they decide to, you know, Tracy in 2017. Before Ellen DeGeneres' social fall, I wrote a personal essay about how coming out in life and in TV impacted me 20 years later. I opined about the loss of queer spaces, specifically the Reader's Fest, gay-owned bookstores and cafes in Hartford, Connecticut, where I worked. Tracy, put the shit together, Tracy. Why have these places disappeared? Because boundaries are not being respected, Tracy. Okay? When you take something, let me use an example for you, because I know this can be difficult. Okay, this could be hard. I know. Well, you can't really see it. This is a cup of coffee. Okay? There's coffee in this cup. If I keep pouring water in this cup, eventually there is going to be no more coffee in this cup. This is going to be just water. That's called dilution. And you can dilute something down to where the property does not exist anymore. That is what happens when you say queer and include everybody who just wants to label themselves as such. This is what happens when you say men can be lesbians. That category no longer exists because it has been diluted down to include everything. Under the notion of inclusivity, inclusiveness, inclusive has become it's so inclusive that it's exclusive now, right? Because it's excluding the actual group. All right. And language too, Tracy. I'm talking to you because Mr. Rude, he doesn't care. I mean, I don't want to, colonizing men. I'm not going to talk to colonizing men. They can go sit in an ant pile, pour syrup on themselves. But Tracy, the word lesbian, language is intended to help humans make sense of our world. For example, Tracy, if I called this a banana because I felt like that's what I wanted to call it, and you called it a coffee cup, Tracy, how are we going to communicate here? If I said, hey, Tracy, can you go get me that banana off the counter? And you didn't understand this cup was a banana, and then you went and got me a banana. I was like, Tracy, no, the banana. You see how language works? Okay, it has to have a meaning, and we have to agree upon the meaning. If I can't call something different than what you call it. We all have to agree on the meaning so that we can fucking communicate. That's how language works. Language also draws barriers and barriers and boundaries are not bad things at all. So, for example, lesbian. Lesbian is a woman that is same sex, exclusively attracted to other women. And by woman, I mean an adult human, female. So when I say I'm a lesbian, if I tell somebody I'm a lesbian, not only is that indication to the person, that is telling them information about me that then allows them to, hopefully, if they're a decent person, allows them to stay within the boundaries of our understanding of what lesbian means. So we'll say I'm in a work situation and everybody's talking about their husbands. And they ask me if I'm married. And I say, well, yes, I'm married, but I'm a lesbian, married to a woman. Okay, so the boundary's been set there. They know to not ask me about my husband anymore because I don't have one. Same thing like if a guy, I hate to use men because most men won't respect boundaries anyways, but let's say a guy comes up and is interested in me and I say, no, I'm a lesbian. He should go, oh, okay, have a nice day and get the fuck out. That's what a gentleman would do. That's what a good real man would do, would respect those boundaries. They don't. But see, understand how the boundaries work. Same thing. You know, us as lesbians are actually a very, very small minority of the population. So it's really hard to find um, it's really hard to find dates, to find love, to find intimacy. And that is such a human experience. Okay. We need those things as humans. It feeds our souls, if you believe in souls, whatever. Spirit, essence. Um, so because we're such a small minority, Tracy, we use the word lesbian and we make a lesbian space so that all the lesbians can come there and feel actually safe. It's a real safe space, right? They don't have to worry about approaching a woman and making her uncomfortable because she's not lesbian, or making her mad, or even maybe, you know, starting a fight, or maybe her boyfriend, say you're at just club, say you're just at this club, right? Just everybody's there. And you find this woman attractive, you're a lesbian, you walk up to her and you start striking a conversation, ask you to buy a drink, whatever, I've never been good at hitting on women. But you do the whole, hitting on the woman. And then she's like, "Oh no, I'm not into it. I'm not a lesbian, or I'm not into women." You'd be like, "Oh, okay, whatever." But often what's happening, I've seen this happen, the boyfriend's around the corner or something, and he comes over there acting all fucking stupid, or he wants to try to get you in a threesome. So like, and lesbians have to deal with this shit all the time. So it's nice to have a space where we don't have to deal with men's shit. We don't have to deal with straight women's crap or any of that, Just women who are there, who are into other women we know. It's boom. And obviously that doesn't mean that every woman's going to be into you, but at least you know that approaching them isn't going to cause any kind of discomfort or any kind of like harm or fighting or anything, right? That's what language and boundaries mean. It actually is helpful for people, actually makes people feel good and allows them to have spaces where they feel safe and loved and accepted and comfortable. Why do you want to do away with those for people? Ask yourself that. Oh, Tracy. Okay, so in this, of course, they had to throw um, After Ellen, publication under the bus is transphobic. They had to throw Michigan Women's Music Festival under the bus as transphobic. And then, of course, they come into here and Mr. Rude. Mr. Rude, ladies and gentlemen. Nowadays, TERFs make me prouder than ever to be a lesbian. The TERF segment of lesbians is getting further and further away from anything that resembles real lesbians every day. No, reverse that. They spout misogyny, reverse that. Bioessentialism, reverse that. And patriarchal bullshit, reverse that. Every day in their fight to kick trans women out. And now that this is, and I know this is not lesbianism. kick trans women out. Well, no, we're kicking men out. I'm not going to use your stupid term. We're kicking men out. You're a man. I don't care how you identify. I don't care how you dress. You can identify any way you want. You can dress any way you want. You can live your life however you want. But that doesn't mean I have to go along with it. That's not how it works. Mr. Rude, as a man, I have been the person who felt excluded in lesbian spaces. That's how it works, Mr. Rude. And After Ellen was one that I specifically felt alienated by as lesbian pop culture journalist. The site never published articles or essays by trans women. I noticed that. Wait, if trans women are women, then what's the difference? I don't understand. Oh, that's right, because trans women aren't women, they're men. Right? So you know the difference. He knows the difference, but we're going to pretend that there's no difference. Nah, I ain't buying it, Rude. Uh-oh, here comes some interesting language. Tracy, I agree that cis sexism and cis-centric thinking aren't exclusive to lesbians. There's something a bit sexist in that notion. The thinking that lesbian equals TERF also raises the fact that there are trans folks who are lesbians. Well, Tracy, you're right. There are some trans-identified women who are lesbians. They're still lesbians and they're still women. It doesn't matter how they identify. Mr. Rude. I know, as a trans lesbian, my lesbian community is better than will ever is better than they will ever have. And it makes me proud. This, by the way, there's not good editing on this article. The lesbians I know in real life and online love me and find me desirable and wouldn't want to have lesbian spaces without me. I know that the majority of lesbians are the same way. What a narcissist. Like, the fuck? What a complete and utter narcissist. Others, okay, so here's another question, right? Others say that lesbian is a very exclusive club that can't include people who have slept with or been attracted to any men, including trans men. Well, trans men aren't men, they're women or non-women. I don't know what that means, so I can't really go there. If it still means female though, then that's not included. And also can't include anyone whose gender is more complicated than woman. Well, woman's not a gender, it's a sex, right? Female. How do you feel about this? Tracy, I've never heard this exclusionary idea. I suppose if you want to be part of the smallest club on the planet, then this works. I don't want to be, Tracy, but I am. Okay. Wish in one hand and shit in the other and see which fills up first. Mr. Rude, I always want there to be more lesbians. Of course you do, Mr. Rude, because you like violating women. You want more women to violate. That's how it works. And if sleeping with a man or enjoying having sex with a man or even dating a trans man, a woman, or having your partner come out as trans, depends what the sex is, means you're not a lesbian, and that means most of us will be kicked out. Exactly. Exactly. Okay. And then they bring in the gold star argument, and these arguments don't actually belong together, right? Because the whole gold star thing, it's like, if you're a lesbian that's never had sex with a guy, great. If you're a lesbian who has a past that involves having sex with men, that's fine too. The difference here is attraction, okay? You can have sex with somebody and not be attracted to them, all right? Many of us, and it will include some gay men as well, have had sex with the opposite sex because we were trying to be straight. We were trying to convince ourselves that we weren't gay. We also were pressured by peer pressure. I was in my teens, very pressured by peer pressure to have boyfriends and pretend I was straight, okay? It's different to have a history with men and then come out as a lesbian and no longer engage with sex with men or even say you're attracted to men because you're not attracted. You shouldn't be attracted to men. You're not attracted to men. That's the difference. Okay. A history with men is fine, but continuing to sleep with men and say you're a lesbian is not fine because you obviously are not a lesbian, or at least you're so fucking self hating that you're hurting yourself. Okay. But if you come out here and you say, well, I'm a lesbian, but I do find men sexually attractive and I like having sex with them. Well, no, that's not what a lesbian is. You think you're bisexual or you're straight. Okay. This isn't a very hard concept. This is just you get in the real world. You talk to lesbians, especially older lesbians, this is a non-issue. The whole gold star versus not gold star is a non-fucking issue in the real world with lesbians who are at least my age, 40s and older. The vast majority of us had sex with men. Some of us had kids with men. Like, oh, Mr. Rude. I also want to say, from a practical standpoint, there are a ton of trans men, trans masc, and non binary people who are important, deeply embedded members of the lesbian community, and it doesn't make sense to kick them out. No, it doesn't, because they're women. It makes sense to kick you out, you pervert. Anyways, they go on to talk more fucking shit. But there's the article, folks. There's the article. There's the fucking homophobic, lesbophobic bullshit article from The Advocate. Reclaiming lesbian, why the label isn't problematic and the TERFs can't have it. The term, it isn't problematic, and the TERFs have it, and we'll always have it. We've always been here and we'll always exist.